15 years ago, following the devastating tsunami, which killed more than 230,000 people in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and 9 other countries. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein Zatzal spoke to his students in Yeshivat Har Etzion. He reminded them that their prayers needed to be focused not only on the Jews harmed by that disaster, but on all the victims from all of the nations. A lesson we learned from Avraham Avinu, who prayed even for the residents of the evil city of Sodom. And then he told them that we have no business poking our noses into the why such things happen. Instead, we must humbly accept that there are things we will never understand. And so beyond their tefillot, he told his students to maintain their faith, their bitachon in God, and to extend chesed and kindness towards others. Not only because acts of chesed and tzedakah are demanded of us as part of our service of God, but also because even small acts of chesed ensure that certain things remain in our consciousness, allow us to concretize and externalize our feelings, developing our moral character and refining our religious personalities, which is profound, but I believe could be summarized as there is a need to daven, a need to believe, and a need to do, not only for those affected by the tragedy, but for ourselves as well, which may be the very lesson of a midrash found in Vayikra Rabbah, which teaches that when children begin to learn Chumash, they should start with Sefer Vayikra, Yavo Tohorim v'yitasku b'tohorim, because young children are pure, and they should involve themselves with the sacrifices that are pure as well, which is codified in Halakha, in the comments of the Shach in Yeridam. And while it's true that very few schools today follow the advice of this midrash, the idea that children should first encounter Torah through the words and the lessons of Vayikra is not only intriguing, but instructive to us all. All of us who so very often fall into, and you'll excuse me, a daze when hearing the details of the korbanot read in shul. What is it that makes this sefer and these korbanot so very precious? The late Rav Shaul Yisraeli Zatzal, in his commentary, Siach Shaul, suggested that the answer is that the korbanot of Vayikra are the paradigmatic examples of our active service of God. Because korbanot teach us that in addition to religious contemplation and ethical interaction, we must actively engage with the divine. We must believe. We must have faith. We must pray. But we must also work to draw closer to God, which is what the entire process of bringing korbanot is all about. A process that is about transforming mere physical objects and actions into spiritual tools through which we not only draw closer to God, but transform ourselves as well. To which I would add that perhaps an additional reason the Sefer was chosen is because korbanot express the full range of human emotion, from gratitude to guilt, from repentance to daily practice. For each, there is a unique korban, and by teaching this lesson to our children, we validate their emotions, we elevate them. When they learn that if they make a mistake, there is a chatat, a path to return. And if something good happens, there is a todah, a way to include God into your joy. And if you live a life of meaning, there is the tamid, the regular and daily commitment to something greater than yourself that brings meaning to everyday existence. Which means that Vayikra, despite its seeming esoterica, contains the overarching principles which elevate us, which make us a nation that strives for greatness, or in the words of God, a nation which must seek to become a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a priestly kingdom and a nation that is sacred, and which David Tzvi Hoffman said was the reason that this book is referred to by Chazal as Torat Kohanim, because Vayikra is the blueprint for how we can become that Mamlechet Kohanim, that kingdom of priests, which brings me back to this coming Shabbat. The second Shabbat we will be spending in our homes and not in our shuls. Unlike 15 years ago when a tsunami struck and instantly destroyed villages and killed so many, we are living with an ever-growing and an ever-changing pandemic. As of yesterday, more than 500,000 people were confirmed to have COVID-19, and more than 24,000 Rahmana Litzlan have already died. Today, the number of infected in America has surpassed those infected in China. And our immediate community has more than 100 confirmed cases. And for all of whom, Jew and non-Jew alike, we need to pray that God grant them a refuah shlema. But what should be our response? I believe it's the lesson of this week's parashah, and the lesson of the next, and the next after that. The message that Rav Aaron taught 15 years ago. We need to draw closer to God. We need to pray for the recovery of so many and for our own health. As ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim, we need to believe, always, but especially when tragedy strikes, that everything is in the hands of God. And then we need to do. We need to elevate the physical and make it into an act of korban, of drawing closer to God. We need to give tzedakah. We need to call others who may be alone. Volunteer if we can deliver meals and even shop for others. And we need to safely help each other, not only for the sake of others, but for ourselves. And therefore, on this Erev Shabbat, I urge you, I implore you, to visit the website jewishchicago.info to learn of all of the communal resources and of many of the needs. I implore you to pick up the phone and stay connected with someone else, and especially with someone else who may be alone. Make every day into an opportunity to make a difference, even as we stay in place. Because maybe staying in place this Shabbat, and maybe having stayed in place last Shabbat, are what Reb Shimon Bar Yochai spoke about when he said, Ilmale mishamrin Yisrael shtei Shabbatot miyad nigalim. If only we observed 2 Shabbatot, we would be immediately redeemed. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected with others and with God. And please, God, have a very healthy, safe, and meaningful Shabbat.